What's up, y'all? This is Minister Erskine Gibson, the modern day prophet, and this video is going to be called Church of the Enlightened has declared war on all Jehovah's Witnesses, part 2. And this is the second part to the first video that I made, where I pretty much focused on my father. And in this video, I'm going to focus more on my mother and tell you and expose what type of person this Jehovah's Witness really is. But before I even do that, let me just first reiterate from my first video that this is not a war of violence. There will be no punches thrown, no shots fired. That's not the kind of war this is. This is a war of ideas, a war of intellects, and my intellect reigns supreme. So, you know, I have the intellectual advantage in this particular war against these people, because I will expose just how hypocritical, how phony, how two-faced these unrighteous people who swear that they're righteous really are. These Jehovah's Witnesses. And anybody who's dealt with these people, who has family members that are Jehovah's Witnesses, who used to be a Jehovah's Witness, knows what I'm talking about. These are some weird freaking people. You have to be a weirdo to even be a Jehovah's Witness. And I'm not making that up. You have to be a weirdo. Everybody that I know that's a Jehovah's Witness is a weirdo of some sort. Now, all of us are weird in our own little ways, but their weirdness is extreme. They're extreme weirdos. Every one of them. And I'm not saying this as a person outside looking in. I used to be a Jehovah's Witness for 14 years myself. And I hated that shit. I truly hated it. I hated having to wear these stupid little suits and knock on people's fucking doors while my friends watch me. You know, man, I truly hated it. And I ended up running away when I was 14, and I never looked back. I knew that wasn't for me. I knew I knew I wasn't one of these people. So I'm not somebody who's just making stuff up or telling you what I think. I have first-hand experiences with these people for a good part of my life. A lot of family members of mine are Jehovah's Witnesses. And two of them are going to get exposed. Even though I could expose every last one of them. Because like I said, every one of them is a weirdo of some sort. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just going to stick with my mother and father. And then I'm going to be done with this. Honestly, I was going to make several videos dedicated to this. But I changed my mind. I get no pleasure in doing this. I take no pleasure at all in having to do this. I feel I have no choice but to do this. I feel it's my duty to do this, to expose these phony, unrighteous people who swear that they're righteous, when all they are an evil cult. All they are a cult. Understand that a cult separates themselves from the rest of the world. That's what Jehovah's Witnesses do. They separate themselves from the rest of the world. They call everything else worldly. And they don't want to have anything to do with worldly people. But see, the thing is, you can't be righteous and separate yourself from the rest of the world. Because understand, people are in pain, people need help, people are suffering in the world. So people need people to help them. So when you ignore these people that need help or are in need, how can you call yourself righteous? When you don't acknowledge that these people are suffering. What makes you righteous? These people are not righteous. They don't give a crap about anybody but themselves and people that go to the Kingdom Hall. They're the most selfish, hypocritical Christians in all of Christianity. And that's why I feel it's my duty to expose these people and not let them spread their lies and their poison and their deceit and their hypocrisy through our neighborhoods and through our society. I have to be the one to put a stop to it. And that's what I am going to do. Me, Minister Erskine Gibson, creator of Church of the Enlightened. No religious organization can touch me, and it's only me. But you can put up any doctrine you want up against me, and I promise you, I will reign supreme. So, let's get on to the video. Now, I'm going to talk about my mother, and I'm going to give you a little bit of background. But before I even do that, I have to actually mention something that I forgot about my father in the last video. Just to give you an even more clear idea of who this faggot really is. This Jehovah's Witness. My father. Okay, now I told you my mother left me when I was 4. So from 4 to 9, it was just me and my father. Then my father met another woman, another Jehovah's Witness piece of crap, and he ended up marrying her. Now, do you know, prior to that, he had set up a bank account for me, and he had put money into this bank account for me. Do you know when he got married, he took all of the money out of my bank account to pay for his wedding, and he never replaced the money, never put it back. Took all of the money that he had set aside for his only son and used it for himself. This is the kind of piece of shit he is. Could you imagine? I couldn't even imagine taking my son's money to pay for something for me, and I do have one son. I could never imagine taking the money I set aside for him to spend on myself, and then not even replace the money. Does that sound like something a righteous person would do? Does that sound normal to you? It sounds like something a pussy whip punk would do, to be honest. You know what I'm saying? And that's what he is. That's what that Jehovah's Witness man is. And it's because he's a Jehovah's Witness. He sees nothing wrong with anything that he does. Nothing. But anyway, you know, let's get on to my mother. I don't even feel like talking about that punk no more, for real. Let's get on to my mother. Now, before I talk about her, I just want to give you a little bit of background and tell you a little bit about her family so you get a clearer understanding of who she really is. Now, my father's family are a bunch of weirdos. They're all Jehovah's Witnesses, whole bunch of freaky weirdos. But the thing is, they're no threat, no harm to anybody. They're all a bunch of weirdos. Now, my mother's side is a totally different story. Now, these are people that will hurt you badly. In fact, you might even disappear messing with my mother's side of the family. Let me first start off with my grandfather. My grandfather is the coolest dude that I have ever known in my entire life. And I'm not just saying that because he was my grandfather. I'm saying that because I have truly never met a man as cool as my grandfather. My grandfather just oozed coolness. I can't even describe how cool this dude was. He just was the coolest man ever. And I really wish I had a chance to have a better relationship with him before he died. But man, my grandfather was the coolest dude ever. And then my grandmother. Now, let me say this. She was cool to us as the grandkids, but I know where everything I'm about to tell you next came from. Everything I'm about to tell you next all came from my grandmother. None of this came from my grandfather, that I'm sure. Anyway, my grandfather had 3 kids with another woman, and they were kind of like weirdos too in a way, kind of like my father's family. But the children that my grandmother and grandfather had, my mother, her sister Pam, and her 2 brothers, Ricky and David. Pam and Ricky and David were 3 people you did not want to mess with. And I cannot be more clear on that. These were very vicious, brutal people who would hurt you bad. And in the case of the 2 brothers, they would do more than hurt you. You would disappear. And I'm not exaggerating on that. They were killers. They would murder you, kill you. This is the kind of family my mother came from. My Aunt Pam. Now, I don't know if she was a murderer like her 2 brothers was, but she's a woman that you do not want to play with. My Aunt Pam is no joke. And when I say this, I can't think of any other woman in my life that I've met that I could apply that more to when I say this is a woman you do not want to play with. You do not want to play with my Aunt Pam. She can be incredibly vicious. Incredibly vicious. And whatever she can't do to you, she knows the people who can finish the job. So understand, my Aunt Pam is not a woman to play with. I can't reiterate that more. Now, and then there was my mother. Now, my mother was the little pretty girl. I ain't gonna lie, my mother is a very, very beautiful woman. She has always been a very attractive woman. And she probably didn't have to worry about anything, because with a sister like Pam and brothers like Ricky and David, I doubt anybody would have been stupid enough to mess with her, to be honest. I doubt anybody was going to mess with my mother because of who her family was. So, my Aunt Pam would come off as the vicious. Like, my mother actually seemed like she didn't even fit in with the rest of her family. She just seemed like really different. But I'm going to tell you something that her and my Aunt Pam have in common. They both have the same mean, vicious streak. Now, the difference with my Aunt Pam is she's somebody who's very direct. You know, she ain't going, it ain't going to be no games with her. She just going to bring it right to you. Now, my mother is more of a cerebral person. She's not going to confront you. You know, she's going to deal with things in a different way. She's going to be a little bit more, like I said, cerebral with how she lets her mean streak loose. And the reason why I know this is because I also have that very same mean streak. Now, I have done a lot to get rid of mine and not to, you know, and to suppress it so far that it doesn't affect me. But understand that my mean streak came from my mother. She has a very, very vicious mean streak. But if you don't know her, you would never know this because of what she portrays, the image she gives off. You would never, the only two people, no, I'm going to say this. I know this, my Aunt Pam probably knows this, and the men she knows with, have dealt with probably know this. But nobody else would ever know this. Not her friends, not her family, nobody. Nobody would know about her mean streak. Like, if you saw my mother and father together, you would swear that I got my mean streak from my father. But no, my father he tried to act tough, but he really wasn't tough. Like me, I really am tough. Now, I do choose the non-violent approach, though. I'm anti-violent, but it don't mean that I can't get violent if I need to. You know, if that's the last resort, man, I can bang with the best of them. I promise you I can hold mine. You know what I'm saying? But that's the kind of dude I am. I'm strong enough to be anti-violent. But anyway, like I said, my mother, because of the family she comes from, you would think that she was totally different, but she was actually more similar to them than y'all might realize. Now, the reason why I'm talking so much about this, because I want to talk about my mother and Aunt Pam and about the kind of men they dealt with. Now, my mom seemed to be in, now, for as pretty as she is, she could have had any man she wanted. Any man. But for some reason, she only seems to like these weirdo, dorky type of nerdy dudes. That's the only kind of dudes I've ever seen her. I've never ever seen my mother mess with a thorough dude. Not ever. Not ever in my life have I ever seen her deal with any type of thorough kind of dude. So she just liked these weird, dorky dudes, my mother. Now, my Aunt Pam just happened to marry the most thorough dude in the entire world, my Uncle Peanut. Let me tell y'all about my Uncle Peanut. There is no man that I admire and respect more than my Uncle Peanut. No man. I have so much love and admiration for this man. I wish that he was my father. My life would have been totally different if I would have had a father like him, to be honest. But in terms of a man who didn't take no shit, he took care of his family. He went out there, he worked hard. You know what I'm saying? He did everything a man was supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? He took care of his family, protected his family. In terms of a black man, in terms of any kind of man, this is the kind of man that I feel that we should be trying to exemplify, be following an example of my Uncle Peanut. Like I said, I have so much respect for this dude that is just unreal. Now, we on the outs right now. We're not really speaking, but that's how family stuff happens with family sometimes. But I love him more than I can say. And also, let me go back to my Aunt Pam for a minute. Now, even though I'm on the outs with her at the moment too, but I love her too. Even though she was vicious and she was not to be played with, understand that she never directed that towards me or any of like my cousins, her nieces and nephews. Now, she was hard on her children sometimes, but she never, ever showed us her man. She has been nothing but sweet and kind and nice to me my entire life. And I love her more than she knows. I appreciate her more than she knows because my Aunt Pam is what I consider a real person. She keeps it real 100% of the time. I cannot stand fake, phony people. I will take somebody like my Aunt Pam over anybody else, because I know even if we mad at each other, we not getting along, I know she gonna keep it real. I know there's no fakeness with her, no phoniness with her. And the other thing is, what's funny is me and my Aunt Pam have more in common than she might even know. Like, we are very similar. Like, we both like the nice things in life. Like, we both drive nice cars. I drive a Benz. She was driving a Lexus last I checked. But if she's not driving that, she's probably driving some other nice car, that I'm sure. Because she likes nice cars. I like nice cars. We both like nice clothes. You know, man, you see what I'm always wearing. I'm Nike down, you know. We like nice shoes, you know, just so y'all know. You know, I always keep it G. I like to look a certain way. And she's like that too. My mother is not like that. She's more of a nerdy type too, to be honest. So, you know, I just want to say that it took me to get older and wiser to really have an appreciation for my Aunt Pam. I've always loved her. I've always loved my Aunt Pam because, to be honest, for as mean and vicious as she could be, like I said, she was the sweetest aunt to all of us. All of the kids loved Aunt Pam. You know what I'm saying? We all loved our Aunt Pam because, like I said, she was never like that with us. And I just got nothing but love and respect for her as well. And you know, just so y'all know, for having two alphas like my aunt and uncle, because my uncle was a dude who man, he'll whip the shit out you. He ain't play. And he could back it up. He was a thorough dude. You know what I'm saying? He was no joke. But if I had to take my chances with the two of them, I would take my chances with my uncle before I mess with my Aunt Pam. Understand, you know, you might take an ass whipping from Peanut and walk away, but Pam, you might not walk away from it. You know, I'd rather take the ass whipping than have my brain splattered on it. You know, and I'm not saying that my aunt would do that to me, but I'm just saying the level of viciousness between. Nah, my Aunt Pam is somebody you just don't play with. And, you know, I can't reiterate that enough. But anyway, that's kind of the background on my mother. Now, here's where the story starts to get a little sadder. Because now I'm going to tell you about my childhood and my mother. But I just want to give you all a little bit of background about her. She's a Jehovah's Witness because she's a weirdo. That's why she's a Jehovah's Witness. So she fits right in with the rest of them. But anyway, okay. My mother and father together, they have me. And I remember this. I'm not making this up. When my mother and father were together, I remember my mother going to meet different dudes and taking me with her to see these different dudes. I remember, and I was really young, I got a good memory. I remember calling my father one of these dudes one time and not even realizing. Somehow I knew I made a mistake when I did it, but you know, I was a kid. I didn't know the significance of what I said. But anyway, I guess not long after that, you know, my mother cheated on my father. And I guess my father found out or whatever. So they split up. And my mother left. And she left me with my father after she had just cheated on him. So suffice it to say, my father was angry and bitter. And I don't even hold that against him. I don't even hold that against him. But he was an angry, bitter man. And he used to really talk bad about my mother a lot. And as a kid, that used to hurt me. It hurt me bad. Because I didn't understand why he hated my mother so much. You know, now as a grown-up I do. But as a kid, and it used to really make me not like my father even more. Because he would talk so bad about my mother all the time. But now, understand this. Let me explain to you some things that happened once my mother left. Now, okay, I'm a 4-year-old. I'm going to pre-K, kindergarten, and I don't have a mother. I'm the only kid in school that don't have a mother. So, I remember having to make up lies. Like, when people ask me, like, where your mother at? Like, she's sick, or, you know, I would always have to make up lies to explain why my mother wasn't around when I was like 4 or 5 years old. 6, 7, you know, as I got older. Now, my mother, I would talk to my mother on the phone, and she would tell me that she's coming to get me. And I would be so happy, like, yeah, I'm going to go get to see my mother. And she no-showed me so many times. So many times. So many times she would tell me that she's coming to get me and just never showed up. That's how she did her son. That's how she did me. So many times. And my father would get even madder. And it would make him more vicious and say even worse things. And like I said, at the time, I'm thinking she's staying away because of him. And maybe she was. But I couldn't understand why he was so hateful towards her. I understand now. I know now why. But at the time, I couldn't. So this was just like a living hell for me. My mother's telling me she's coming to get me. She never shows up. My father's angry and hateful all the time. I got nobody else. And it just was a miserable, miserable childhood. And then my father ends up meeting a woman. And she has 2 kids. And I told you he took my money that he has been saving to use towards his wedding towards this woman. And she didn't like me at all. And we didn't get along at all. So I say from 9 to 14, it got even worse. And then my father didn't even, I wasn't no more to him than the other 2 kids, to be honest, at this point. He didn't treat me any differently. And maybe that's a good thing, but it didn't feel good to me. Because, I just had, basically up until 14, I had nobody. I had nobody. I mean, my mother would come get me from time to time. Whenever I guess she could fit in her schedule. But I had nobody up till I was 14. Then at the age of 14, me and my stepmother, we get into a fight. I'm done. I can't take this shit no more. My father come home, beats me. The next day, I'm like, screw this. I'm leaving. I ran away. I ran away to go live. I went to my mother's job where she worked at. And I told her I had to come live with her. I couldn't live with my father anymore. So I lived with my mother for the next 3 or 4 years. And understand, by this point, I was batshit insane. I was batshit insane. Oh, and one other thing I have to mention is that when I went to go live with my mother, I found out I had a little brother. And I can't tell you how happy I was to find out that I had a little brother. Because I've always wanted a little brother of my own. And I loved this boy like a son. Now, I'm going to say this. My little brother died when he was 13 years old. He died getting off a bus crossing the street. He ran out from behind a bus and got hit by a car and was killed. My little brother didn't even know how to cross a street. And I'm not going to talk a lot about my little brother other than to say I loved him very, very much. I looked at him as much like a son as a little brother. In fact, this tattoo right here, TC, that's TC for my little brother. My very first tattoo ever was TC with Tory Cortland, my little brother. But let me use this to go back to my mother and explain the kind of person she is. Because, now, my brother's father, Malcolm Leggett, now he wasn't a Jehovah's Witness, but he was an even bigger piece of shit than my father is, believe it or not. This man was the biggest piece of scum I have ever known in my entire life. He treated my brother so indifferently, so badly. He did not show my brother any love at all that I ever seen for my brother's entire life. If I didn't know better, now I'm even wondering if Malcolm was even his father. That's how badly he treated my brother. I wonder if my mother may have cheated on Malcolm and somebody else was my brother's father. I really have to wonder that, because Malcolm treated him so badly that I really can't think of, unless Malcolm is truly the most evil piece of shit in the world. I can't think of any reason why you would treat your son like that. That just made no sense to me at all. I remember my brother was getting picked on in school, and I remember having to come show my brother how to fight, how to defend himself, because his faggot father wouldn't do it. You know what I'm saying? So I remember having to do that. And his father was there, and he watched me do it. He watched me go out there and do it. And then he thanked me for it. But I'm like, Like, yo, what the... Like, something... I don't know what's up with that, but let me say this. If he was my brother's real father, his natural father, my mother never held him accountable for the way he treated my brother. Her dumb ass never held him accountable for that. Never. Not to this day has he been held accountable for the way he treated my brother. But I'm going to hold his punk ass accountable right now. And I promise you this. I haven't seen him in years. And if I see him, I'm not going to slap him in his goddamn face like I should, because I believe in nonviolence. I'm the anti-violent person. But I will say this. If somehow a situation was to present itself where I had no choice but to fight him, say if that somehow that happened, and I wouldn't try to make that happen because I just don't believe in that approach, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to do everything I can to hurt this man. I'm going to hurt this man badly. I'm going to fucking hurt him badly. I promise you. Hopefully, though, it won't come to that. Because like I said, I'm truly against violence. I really am. I really believe that when you're enlightened, and I do consider myself enlightened, you have to behave a certain way. And your approach has to be the nonviolent approach. Your approach has to be the intellectual approach. That's what I'm all about. I'm all about intellect. I'm all about math. I'm all about, I'm all about intelligence and knowledge and wisdom. You know what I'm saying? That's why no church, including the Kingdom Hall, is on a level of Church of the Enlightened. Nobody is. Back to the story, though. So, my mother never held my stepfather accountable for the way he treated my brother. Not ever. Just more to show you the type of woman she is. Now, y'all notice I mentioned my Aunt Pam a lot. And the reason why I did, because if there's two people in this world who knows my mother, it's me and my Aunt Pam, who knows who the real Angela Gibson is. Me and my Aunt Pam. So if y'all think I'm making any of this up, if y'all think that I'm embellishing any of this, y'all can go check with my Aunt Pam. She can confirm everything I'm saying. I'm not making any of this up. This is who my mother really is. Anyway, man, I put my mother through hell for about 3 or 4 years. I really did. Like I said, I was batshit insane by that point. I ended up going in the Job Corps. I graduated out of Job Corps. Then I ended up going in the Army after that. And I met the first person I dealt with. And I had a kid with her. I do have one other kid. I have 4 kids total. I have an older daughter as well. And I love her just as much as my other kids. I just haven't talked about it. But I love her to death just as much as I love my other kids. But I met her. And my mother did have a pretty good relationship with my first daughter. I will say that. She does seem to care about her somewhat. But when things didn't go right with me and the mother of my first child, and I met the mother of my next 3 children, my mother actually had a good relationship with the mother of my children. So I probably can't even get through to the mother of my children, the type of woman my mother really is, because my mother never showed that to her. She never really saw that from my mother. Now, one thing she does see from my mother, though, that she can see, is that my mother don't deal with my 3 children with her. She treats them just like she treated me. And they probably can't rely on her to come visit any more than I could. So she has no relationship with my 3 youngest children, which brings it right back to how she treated me and why I have no respect whatsoever for this woman at all. None. Because she thinks she's righteous. She thinks she's a good person. Now understand that for all the hell she put me through, all the hell, in fact, before I even say that, let me even say this. Do you know I have never once been able to even borrow money from my mother? Not my entire life. My entire life. Now, she loaned my children's mother like $4,000. And that's what I'm saying. My children's mother probably won't be able to see how my mother really is, because my mother is the type to say if there's her grandkid and another kid and she has one piece of candy She's going to give her piece of candy to the other kid. She's not going to give it to her grandkid. Because family doesn't mean shit to my mother. Not her direct family anyway. I just have to drive this point home. And I'm kind of all over the place because there's so many memories hitting me. My mother, I can honestly say, my mother has never cared more about me than her sister Pam, her sister Bet, her sister Debbie, her mother, her friend Flo. She treats the mothers of my children better than me. There is so many people who was more important to my mother than her own child. I have never been as important as any of these people in her life. And this is the truth. I'm not making this up. I have never been important to her. My children aren't important to her. And do you think this bitch ever once came out of her mouth and apologized to me for anything she did to me? Do you think I've gotten one apology for leaving me as a little kid, for never showing up to get me when she said she would, for just never being a mother at all, for always she has never once acknowledged anything. And neither has my father, by the way. That's why I have so much resentment towards these Jehovah's Witnesses pieces of shit. This is why I can't stand these people. Because they're fucking weirdos who think they're righteous but are the scum of the earth. You can't get no worse than these people. These people don't have the basic understanding of how to be decent towards everybody else unless you're a Jehovah's Witness. Their decency doesn't extend beyond the kingdom hall. That's who these people are. Even I know as a parent how to treat my children. These two people cannot teach me anything about being a parent. If anything, they should learn from me. They would have to learn from me how to truly love your children and put your children first above and beyond anything. Because understand, my children are more important to me, all four of them, than anything else in this world. There's nothing in this world that comes close to my children for me. If you try to do anything to my children, I will use all of my intellect, every bit of it, to totally destroy you. Stay away from my children and stay away from Natasha Brown. And we good. Do not mess with them people. Or else, man, all that nonviolent shit goes out the window. All of it. Leave my family alone, we good. That's how I feel about my family. That's why I'm gonna imitate my Aunt Pam and my Uncle Peanut in that regard. Because they were fiercely loyal to their family and would do anything to protect their families. And that's how I am. That's not how my mother and father are. That's not how these two Jehovah's Witnesses are. That's not how they are. And my Aunt Pam and Uncle Peanut aren't Jehovah's Witnesses either, by the way. If they were, I probably wouldn't have the same. In fact, I know I wouldn't, because they'd be weirdos. But they're not weirdos because they're not Jehovah's Witnesses. And even though my Uncle Peanut's family, a lot of his family is Jehovah's Witnesses too. And so is my Aunt Pam's. But somehow they stayed clear of it like I did. For their whole lives. So the three of us know that they're a bunch of brainwashed, hypocritical pieces of shit and a cult. That's why I called them a cult. That's all Jehovah's Witnesses are, is a cult. They're a cult of brainwashed, unrighteous, unsympathetic. They don't, like I said, they do not care about anybody that don't go to the kingdom hall. We're all worldly to them. We're nothing to these people. So, it's time to silence these people. Excuse me. And I need all of your help to do so. We need to make sure that they know that their message is no longer welcome in any of our communities or in society in general. They can talk about that shit amongst themselves in the basements of the kingdom halls all around the world. I don't care. But when they come knock on your door, do not answer the door. And if you do answer the door, tell them to kindly remove themselves from your premises, or there will be trouble. When they try to approach you in the streets with their little stupid magazines, tell them that you don't want to hear anything they have to say. And tell them to kindly remove themselves from your presence, or there will be trouble. We have to let these people know they can no longer spread their lies, their deceit, their hypocrisy, their evilness in our society, in our communities, in our schools, nowhere. If they want to talk about it, they can talk about it amongst themselves. We don't need them. We don't need these unrighteous, fucked up ass, phony ass people trying to tell us how we should live our lives. We don't need their help. We don't need the help of these weirdos. Trust me, we do not need these weirdos telling us what we need how we need to live our lives. When they don't know they don't know the first thing about being decent at all. So, I hope y'all understand. I'm going to tell y'all, my mother and father have really, really messed me up. And I had to. In fact, a couple of years ago, me and my children's mother got into something that caused me to damage my relationship with my children a little bit. In fact, it wasn't even a little bit, it was significant. And I had to take that time to realize what I did. And I decided I am not going to be anything like these people. Nothing like these people. And I had to totally change who I am. And I went to my kids. And I got all my kids. And I apologized. And I told them I was sorry. I took full responsibility for what happened between me and my children. And I told them it would never happen again. And it will never happen again. I will never let anything jeopardize my relationship with my children again. I love and appreciate them more than they could know. They're just such good children. And if there's anything good in my life that I can look at that's just purely good, it's my children. That's the one thing I have that I can always wrap my arms around and be like, damn, at least I do have something good and positive and pure. You know, unlike what I went through. And I will never, ever let my kids feel the way that I had to feel or go through the things that I had to go through. My kids will never. My kids all know love. And I'm so thankful that even though I've had problems with both their mothers, I know that both the mothers of my children love their children with all their heart. And that's all I really can ask for from either of them. Just to let my children know that they're loved. And I know my children feels love. I was totally unloved. I wasn't loved by my mother or my father. That's why, you know, I turned out the way I am. But now I've turned that around. And I am the Minister Erskine Gibson. I am the modern day prophet of the modern time. There is nobody on my level intellectually. There is nobody that can bring the truth like I can bring it. Now, it's up to y'all to decide what y'all want to believe. I can't force y'all to believe anything. But I'm telling y'all, there is nobody on my level, and Church of the Enlightened will reign supreme. There's no doubt in my mind that Church of the Enlightened will sit atop all of these other phony organizations one of these days. Anyway, y'all, I hope y'all understand things y'all might not have understood before. Why I feel a need to wage war on these phony, hypocritical Jehovah's Witnesses. Why I feel they're the scum of the earth. I don't hate them. You should never hate people. Hate is bad. Hate is negative energy that will tear apart your mind and body. Never resort to hatred. But I do despise these people. Be clear about that. I do despise them. Anyway, y'all, thank you for watching the video. Please like the video. Please like it. Please subscribe to the channel. Please leave your thoughts and comments. Any bad experiences you've had with Jehovah's Witnesses. You know, whether they've excommunicated you, whether you have these pieces of shit in your family, whether they've sexually abused, anything. Any bad experience, please leave in the comments. Give me some ammunition to take it to these people so we can silence these people. And please subscribe. Yeah, please subscribe to the channel and share the video. Please help me share the video to get as many eyes on it as we can. Thank y'all for watching the video. Everybody stay safe, stay strong, stay healthy. Peace.